To 2 Kings chapter 5.
All right,
you guys all look amazing this morning. And I hope you guys are doing amazing as well. You guys doing good?
Yeah.
Where we open up to?
2 Kings chapter 5.
Come on, bro.
Yeah. It's about to get real. So, your notepads out, your pens out. Or not, it's alright. But here in 2 Kings chapter 5, starting in verse 1, we're going to read about a guy named Naaman and a guy named Elisha. But here in verse 1, the Bible reads, "Now Naaman was the commander of the army of the king of Aram. He was a great man in the sight of his master and highly regarded, because through the Lord he had been giving great victory to Aram. And he was a valiant soldier, but he had leprosy." And so this guy had a pretty good reputation, right? Yeah. I mean, imagine if when someone thought of you, they're like, "Oh yeah, that guy is great, highly regarded, he's valiant, lots of victorious." Like, these are words that, it'd be kind of cool if those are the first things that popped into someone's mind when they thought of you, right?
Wow.
I don't really know how someone would describe me. Maybe valiant would be a good word. I don't know. But, I don't know, maybe, why not? That's how they describe this guy, right? But he was a leper. He had leprosy. And for those of you who don't know, leprosy is a disease that thankfully we have a cure for now. But it was fairly common during this time. And basically your skin would peel off of you and fall off. So even this, and usually those people were outcasted, because he was contagious. And despite that, this guy was still highly regarded because he was such a great soldier, right? And it's fitting that someone who has such high stature would catch something like this, catch leprosy. Because I think God gives us weaknesses to keep us humble. Which leads us to our first point, boast in your weakness. Please turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 12.
Go ahead.
I think it's kind of fascinating how a lot of times when you see people who you just assume have it all, where everything's perfect for them, you find out that something's been under the surface with them. Right. A lot of times with celebrities, right? You look at them and you're like, wow, this guy's got money. He has the trophy wife. He has his amazing career. But then you find out that they're suicidal, right? Battling with depression.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people have these weaknesses that they try to conceal. Right. Yeah. But here in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, starting it's halfway through verse 7, where it says, "Therefore." It says, "Therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but he said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, and persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong.'" See, here's a concept that a lot of us, might think is backwards, that we're strong when we are weak, right? A lot of times you look at someone who is weak, and strength isn't one of the words you use to describe them, right? Because they're weak. But here in the Bible, it's quite the opposite. And the reason for that is because when you think that you're strong, and you think that you can do it all yourself, God isn't going to help you, right? Go ahead, do it all yourself. This might come as a surprise to some of you, but I am not the best public speaker in the whole world. Believe it or not, I'm not super comfortable up here. A lot of times when I come up, it feels like I have cotton in my mouth. And and then my throat starts to get tight. I start to see everyone, I'm like, oh man, this is crazy. And I have a tendency just to kind of, babble along. But I think that if what I'm saying up here is coherent at all, and I'm making sense, it's because God is using me. God is making up for my weaknesses. So if one day I come up here and I'm just not making any sense, it's probably because I think I'm a great speaker and God's not helping me. Because every time I come up here, I pray that God uses me as a vessel. It takes me out of the equation because I know I'm not a very good public speaker, and I'll mess it up, and none of you understand what I'm talking about. So hopefully I'm making sense to you this morning. That means that God is with me. But I think in a lot of ways, we're people, so we tend to get prideful, right? But there's two sides of pride. Pride is like a coin. There's pride in the way we think of it, like an arrogance, and there's insecurity, right? Insecurity is absolutely a form of pride. Because you're forgetting who God made you to be, right? I think, I liked what Kiana shared in her communion. I think sometimes we forget just who God has called us to be, who God has made us to be, right? You can't let people look down on you, and you can't let people, think that whatever negative opinion about you, because the truth is God made you that way, right? God gives us our weaknesses so that we won't be arrogant, but God gives us our strengths too. He gives us our quirks, right? Today I'm breaking out a little bit. I have some stuff on my face. Whatever. God made me the way I am. I can't be insecure, right? Maybe, maybe people think your laugh is loud and obnoxious. Whatever. God made you that way. He gave that laugh to you. God thinks it's perfect, right? However God made you, if you think you're too short, if you think you're, too lanky, think you're whatever, just remember, God made you that way, and God thinks that you are perfect. Now, on the other side, maybe you think you just have it all. Maybe you think that you're just the most talented person in the world, and, you got it going for you. Well, I would be careful, because God can give you that thorn the way He gave one to Paul. And it's like Paul prayed 3 times for this. We don't know what the thorn is, right? But obviously it's something that kept him from being conceited. So maybe it was a zit. Who knows? He prayed 3 times. God, take it away. Like, imagine, the first time, this guy, Paul, has all the confidence in the world. God hears me. He prays for this to be taken away. Nothing, right? And Paul, I don't know. He had a lot of audacity. He's going to pray again. God, maybe you just didn't hear me the first time. I said, can you take this away, right? Still nothing. Whatever this is that's keeping him from being conceited, right? It's still there. And I think it's pretty, audacious to ask God for something twice. He goes ahead a third time, look, God, I'm asking you, take this away from me. And he responds, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Paul wasn't weak enough. Paul had to be made weak for God's power to be made perfect.
Wow, come on, bro.
God can't work in your life unless you're weak. And the thing is, even if you are weak, if you're trying to be strong, it's like you're trying to make up for something that God left unfulfilled.
Wow.
God made you not perfect so that you would rely on Him. Not so that you try to muscle it up and go, man, I'm independent. I'm strong, right? I can get through this. That's the whole concept here in America, right? You don't need nobody else. I don't need no man. Right? I'm strong, I'm independent. That's all I'm saying, right?
Talk about that.
But the truth is, you do need God, right?
It's true.
And maybe you're so great you don't need God. God will bring you down so that you do need Him. And in the case of Naaman, it was leprosy. So don't pray for God to take away your weaknesses. Pray for God to make up for them. Pray for God to fill you up in the places where you're not filled. And pray for God to make you perfect in your weaknesses. Let's go back to 2 Kings chapter 5. Continuing our story. So now we're on verse 2. We're making progress.
Come on, Jordan.
2 Kings chapter 5, starting in verse 2, the Bible reads. Now, so remember, this guy is he's amazing, whatever. He has leprosy now, right? In verse 2 it says, now bands of raiders from Aram had gone out and had taken captive a young girl from Israel, and she served Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, if only my master would see the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his leprosy. So, to be honest, I don't know if I'm just dumb, but I had to read this 5 times to understand what's happening. So basically, Naaman is from Aram, right? And, back then it was, I guess, okay just to go around and kidnap people from other places. So this guy went to Israel and kidnapped this girl, and this girl's now a servant for Naaman's wife, right? But I guess they treat her good because she's like, oh yeah, I can help you with your leprosy. I know a guy from where you kidnapped me from who can help you. So it's a weird dynamic, right? But it doesn't seem to be weird here. So in verse 4 it says, Naaman went to his master and told him what the girl from Israel had said. And by all means go, the king of Aram said. I will send a letter to the king of Israel. So Naaman left, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 sets of clothing. Isn't that funny? Like, clothing is like also currency. Yeah. Like 10 sets, so 10 outfits, right? Imagine today if you're going to buy something, like, oh, how much? Like, oh, it's a nice fit you got on. Just trade that way. That's how they did it back then.
I traded you a shirt, son.
I thought that was cool. Right? Like, you can give me the shirt, you know? And in verse 6 it says, the letter that he took to the king of Israel read, with this letter I am sending my servant Naaman, so that you may cure him of his leprosy. As soon as the king of Israel read this letter, he tore his robes and said, am I God? Can I kill and bring back to life? Why does this fellow send someone to me to be cured of his leprosy? See how he is trying to pick a quarrel with me. So the king of Israel gets this letter, because I guess, the king of Aram thought, like, oh, the guy in Samaria who can cure people is probably the king, right? Why wouldn't someone that powerful be the king? Right. And the king of Israel is not that guy. It was actually, in fact, a prophet. So the king of Israel is like, he's kind of overdramatic, right? He like tears his clothes. He's like, how am I supposed to heal this guy? I can't do that. I'm just a king, right? That's still kind of a cool response. Like, imagine every time you heard something that got you stressed out. They did that a lot in the Bible.
That would be kind of
Verse 8. When Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his robes, he sent him this message. Why have you torn your robes? Have the man come to me, and he will know that there is a prophet in Israel. So Elisha thought it was equally ridiculous that this guy was tearing his robes. And, this is kind of an interesting thing that's happening here. So, just to recap it all, Naaman tells his king, like, hey, I guess there's a guy over there that can heal me. That can heal me of my sickness. So if you could send a letter to him, that'd be great. So they send a letter, and the king is like, this can't be for me. And Elisha says, you're right. It's not for you, it's for me. Right? And so Elisha, this is pretty crazy, right? Like, this king of Aram, who's a stronger king, is like, I'm sending my guy, and you better heal him of his sickness, or else he'll probably come and attack you, right? This is kind of a problem. It's an obstacle, right? Yeah. And yet, Elisha's faith, point number 2, faith like Elisha, says, just bring him to me. I'll heal him. And not only will I heal him, but everyone will know that there's a prophet here. You see, your faith determines how you view your circumstances.
Yes.
You can either view an obstacle in your life as one, a problem, to a challenge, or you can view it as an opportunity. Come on. I think this king definitely saw this as a problem, right? Like, man, he's trying to pick a quarrel with me. He wants me to be God here. I'm not God. I can't heal people. But Elisha looked at it and saw it as an opportunity. Yeah. So not only can I heal this guy, but I can prove to everyone that there's a prophet here. Yeah. That God is with us. Yeah. And I think a lot of times, just in our lives, it's really easy to view things as problems and challenges and opportunities. Yeah. Right. There's 9 million people here in New Jersey. There's like, I don't know how many people in our room, but we can fit in a house, right? Yeah. There are 48 colleges in New Jersey. We have a lot of work to do, right? Yeah. And this is, the people in this room are the ones who are going to be responsible for spreading the gospel to all these people. Yeah. We can view this as a problem, like, hey, this is not practical, it's going to take forever. We can do it as a challenge, what I think a lot of us do. We view a lot of things as challenges, like, man, it's going to be hard, but we'll muscle through it, we'll do it, right? Yeah. Or we can see it as an opportunity. This is a chance for me to step up and do what God has called me to do. There's a lot of work to be done, and this is the group that's going to do it. And I think just in our own lives and our own shortcomings, right? We can view just the things in our lives as problems and challenges. Maybe there's some sin that you've been in for a while, and it's hard for you just to break out of that. You can see this as a problem, right? Like, man, how am I ever going to get through this? A challenge, like, man, I'll get through this one day. Or an opportunity to repent. To show God just how much you care and how hard you're willing to work. I want you to think about the difference between weaknesses and shortcomings, right? Weaknesses God gives you. Nothing you can do about it. You're weak in this area. Now you have to rely on God. A shortcoming is your own inability to produce what you should be able to. right? Your own inability to be the person that God wants you to be.
Yeah.
And when we face these shortcomings, we have to see the problems in our lives as not just an obstacle that seems impossible, but an opportunity to do something great. But the only way to view these obstacles as opportunities, because it just sounds crazy, right? Like, who looks at problems in their life as, wow, I can't wait to tackle this problem? Well, you have to have faith.
Right.
You have to be a man of great faith, like Elisha. And I can just yell at all you guys, like, hey, you guys need to have more faith. But that won't work. You guys won't get more faith from that. Instead, you have to get faith from God.
Yeah.
How do you do that? You read the Bible and you pray.
Come on.
It's how you get faith. There's really no, like, secret ritual you do and then
Yeah.
filled with faith.
Yeah.
All it is just having a relationship with God, right?
Yeah.
When you have a relationship with anyone, don't you have more faith in them?
Amen.
Yeah.
Right? Would you rather your mother take care of your children or a stranger? Why? Why would you choose your mother? Because you have a relationship with her, right?
Yeah.
And you have faith that she'll carry through.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't know God, how can you have faith in Him?
Come on.
How can you have faith in God if you've never spent time with Him?
Come on.
You might be able to, cerebrally understand that there is a God, right? You might not be an atheist, but you still might also not know God.
Come on.
Acknowledging His existence is not the same as having a relationship with Him.
Yeah.
To have a relationship with God, you talk to Him. It's like having a relationship with anyone else, right? I've been building a relationship with Will lately.
Come on.
I haven't done anything special. We just kind of hang out, He just kind of popped into my room yesterday. Was eating pistachios, We were hanging out, You can kind of pop into. Oh, thank you. You can just kind of pop into God's room and eat some pistachios while you read the Bible, right? While you pray. And that's how you build a relationship with God. That's how you get the faith necessary to overcome the obstacles in your life.
Come on, Jordan.
Let's continue our story here.
Come on, Jordan.
In verse 9, it says, So Naaman went with his horses and chariots and stopped at the door of Elisha's house. Elisha sent a messenger to say to him, Go wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan, and your flesh will be restored, and you will be cleansed. Point number 3, wash and be cleansed. So I think it's funny how Elisha had all this confidence, like, yeah, send him to me, I'll heal him. But then when he gets there, Elisha doesn't even think it's like worth his while to go out there and meet him. He just sends like a messenger. And yeah, just go tell him just to go clean himself off. He'll be fine. Yeah. And he had all the confidence in the world that would work. Like he didn't have to like oversee it and micromanage it. He was just like, yeah, just go do this. Everyone say hi to my friend Greg. This is Greg.
Hey, what's up, Greg?
Hey,
What's up, brother?
Yeah, not sure.
Great.
And that's all he had to do, right? He just sent his friend out like, hey, go tell him what to do, and that should be sufficient, right? Let's see how Naaman responds to this. In verse 11 it says, But Naaman went away angry and said, I thought he would surely come out to me and stand and call on me in the name of the Lord his God and wave his hand over the spot and cure me of my leprosy. He had this like image, right? That it'd be like special. It'd be like a ceremony or something.
Yeah, right.
And he kind of worked up what he was expecting. In verse 12 it says, Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Couldn't I wash in them and be cleansed? So he turned off and went in a rage.
Ooh,
It's kind of funny. Elisha knew that there were cleaner rivers in the place where he lived. But he said, nah, bring him all the way out here, and we'll dunk him in this dirty river, the Jordan River, which is my name, right?
hey, all right.
And it's like filthy. And he's like, yeah, just go dunk yourself in there 7 times and you should be good. But how does Naaman respond to this? Not well, right? I think it's because probably along the journey he had been, picturing what he wanted it to be like. He wanted to hand over his silver and his gold and his 10 outfits or whatever. And then Elijah would do this ceremony, this thing, and it would all be like just how he envisioned it, right?
Yeah.
That's not how it is. I think a lot of times we have the tendency to romanticize how we want things in our life to go.
Yes.
The reality is you're just not that special, right? Like not everything has to be like a fairy tale, and then we don't want to accept that, right? We all have this dream of how we want our life to go, but when God's plan for our life is a little different, we just want to, I don't like it, you know what I mean? That's exactly what Naaman did.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, he was ready to spend all this money too. Like 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 sets of clothing. And yet when he's told to do something so simple as just wash and be cleansed, he throws a fit, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's a good thing he had good friends in his life. Look at verse 13, where it says, Naaman's servants went to him and said, My father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more then when he tells you, wash and be cleansed?
Right, come on.
Yeah.
So he went down and dipped himself in the Jordan 7 times as the man of God told him, and his flesh was restored and became clean like that of a young boy. Then Naaman and all his attendants went back to the man of God. He stood before him and said, Now I know that there is no God in all the world except in Israel. So please accept a gift from your servant. The prophet answered, As surely as the Lord lives whom I serve, I will not accept a thing. And even though Naaman urged him, he refused. It's kind of funny. After all this, all he had to do was be humble, submit, and obey.
Yeah.
And his skin became clean again.
Yeah.
And it's funny how back then they were complicating everything, but the procedure was simple. Just wash and be clean. And I think today in Christianity, right, we have all these hundreds of denominations, all this confusion and complications
Right.
over ethics and morals and all these different things that we try to confuse.
Right.
But the method is still the same. Wash and be cleansed.
Come on.
Today we say, repent and be baptized.
That's what we'll talk about. Yeah, come on.
That's all the Bible, so you can simplify it further. Just say, have a relationship with God. Or even further, just say, read the Bible and do what it says.
Yeah.
All those are the same thing, right? If you read the Bible and do what it says, you'll have a relationship with God, and the only way to have a relationship with God is to repent and be baptized.
Come on, bro.
It's all one and the same. The instructions are still wash and be cleansed, so why do we overcomplicate everything?
Right.
Good.
Because the
point.
truth is, the way we want things to be are never going to be what God wants
Right.
things to be, because God's ways are so simple, and we want to overcomplicate stuff.
Yeah.
That's why we want to romanticize things and expect the way we're going to meet these people are going to be, everything's going to be perfect. But the truth is, God just kind of plops people in your life. And then they're there, and you get to choose whether or not you're going to go about the way God intended it for you to go about, right?
Yeah.
I know I never dreamed of moving to New Jersey, right? I spent the first 17 years of my life in Los Angeles, California. But one day I found out I was moving, and like a few weeks later I was here. And that's just kind of how it went. Right? And I think a lot of us have stories similar to that, because God just kind of throws things on your path, and it's your choice how you react, right?
Right.
God sets the times and places, but we have free will, and we decide how we go about the things we do.
Right.
And I think the best way to go about things is to do what worked for Naaman. Be humble, submit, and obey. And follow the procedure the way God intended it to be followed. Wash and be cleansed. So I just want to recap it all. So in the beginning, right? Boast in your weaknesses. Be strong because God allows you to be strong. Have faith like Elijah. You get that from reading and studying the Bible. And then submit and obey. And don't overcomplicate Christianity. And God be the glory.
God,